those who clung to the old saying with desperate, greedy hands. The only difference was that she saw how the hopeful were constantly dejected when their lives never changed, and was thankful that she didn't allow blind faith to lay heavy on her chest like an invited albatross. Most days she had even forgotten that she had chosen to live a life devoid of hope, and carried on with the chores of the living as if it were business as usual. Moments arrived, memories faded, anniversaries flew by all on their own volition without Alberta's permission or involvement. Sometimes she felt as if she were living someone else's life and fulfilling someone else's destiny. And on the rare occasions when she stopped to think about her own life's possibilities, she felt powerless to change what she considered to be inevitable. So when those thoughts came into her head, she rolled her eyes and did something practical, like try, for the umpteenth time, to perfect one of her grandmother's recipes. Then one day, a few weeks before her 64th birthday, when Alberta was no longer a wife but a widow, and long after her children needed a mother to survive, something quite unexpected happened. The gift of hope that decades earlier Alberta dismissed as nothing more than pio desiderio, as unhealthy and wasteful fantasy, finally arrived, not on the wings of an angel, but the heels of a hearse. At 88 years old, and as a 9-year resident of the Sisters of Mercy nursing home, Carmela's death wasn't unexpected, but it still caught Alberta by surprise because she thought her aunt should have died a long time ago, and was surprised she had hung on for so long. To say that Carmela was no longer engaged in life was an understatement. For the past 5 years, she hadn't spoken a word, nor had she been able to take care of her basic bodily functions. She was being held a prisoner on earth by her own stubbornness. She slept her days away or stared out the window at the world she was no longer a part of, and during each visit, Alberta couldn't understand why this woman clung on to a life she no longer was living. "Just go already," Alberta would whisper in Carmela's ear when it was just the two of them in the room. "There is nothing left for you here, so just die for Christ's sake." If anyone overheard Alberta, they would have labeled her a cruel, evil woman, but quite the opposite was true. Alberta loved her Aunt Carmela and thought she was the most courageous woman she knew, who had lived a long, if not necessarily fulfilling, life, and was now doing nothing more than taking up space. A cruel thought, perhaps, but a realistic one nonetheless. When the shock of Aunt Carmela's death wore off, Alberta hoped her words and the compassion behind them in some way helped her aunt decide it was time to stop fighting the inevitable. The only thing that shocked her more than hearing the news about her aunt's death was receiving a call from Giancarlo Mastrantonio Jr. "Is this Alberta Scaglione?" The voice on the other end of the call sounded as if it belonged to someone who had a minor role in The Godfather, so Alberta was immediately suspicious. It could either be a long-lost relative or some duplicitous scam artist/telemarketer, and she didn't know which was worse. "Who's asking?" "This is Giancarlo Mastrantonio Jr." The caller announced his name with such confidence, a proclamation of sorts, as if the mere mention of it should impress the listener, or at least instill a sense of recognition. It did neither. "Who?" Alberta replied, not even trying to conceal her annoyance. "Giancarlo Mastrantonio Jr.," he repeated. "Esquire." "I'm a don," Alberta swore. "I am done talking with lawyers. My husband didn't leave me any money, so go find yourself another patsy." A minute after she hung up the phone, it rang again, and before she could tell Mr. Mastrantonio Jr. exactly how she felt about lawyers and exactly what he could do with his slimy law degree, he said 6 words that changed her life.